Hello, everyone. It's me, Tim O'Connor, your host, your Thursday host for A Free Solution. It is January 13th, 2022. Once again, guys, you can check out this show on WYSL in Rochester, New York, WACK in Newark, New York. It's available all over the internet. And I share with pleasure, I share this platform with Larry Sharp, Kevin Wilson, Craig Miles, Andrew Hollister. And guys, we're going to do a little deep dive, a little breakdown of some interesting events in 2021. I basically troll Twitter, look around Twitter for interesting news stories, and I ran across one that should be of some interest to all of us. All right. Our elected representatives, as many of you probably already know, and as some other news outlets have probably covered in some detail, did our elected representatives make a killing in the stock market? And so I'm just going to give a shout out to some of the higher rated, just more successful investors over the course of 2021. And maybe I just do the top 10 here for you right now. We'll do a little deeper dive into how some of these guys made some big, huge returns, weirdly timed. Nothing to see here, though, folks. And I mean, we can go right down through the list. Number one, Austin Scott. Number two, Brian Mast. Number three, French Hill. Number four, John Curtis. Number five, guys, coming in at number five, Dan Crenshaw from the state of Texas. Nancy Pelosi from the state of California. David Rouser, David McKinley, Peter Welch, Debbie Dingle, Jim Langevin, Michael Guest, Earl Blumenauer, Don Beyer, Mo Brooks, Victoria Sparks, Alan Lowenthal, Shelley Capito, Mitch the Turtle McConnell, Thomas Susie, Catherine Clark, David Joyce, Deborah Ross, Dean Phillips, Elaine Luria, Ron Wyden, Tommy Tuberville, August Pfluger, Josh Gottenheimer, John Yarmouth, Lloyd Doggett, Blake Moore, Kathy Castor, William Keating, and Thomas Carper. Congratulations. There's a mix of Republicans and Democrats. I'll say the top five are all Republicans. They were very successful. The next few mixed with Democrats and Republicans. I think overall, I want everyone to know, though, that there's a pretty good balance as far as who made what at what gig trading stocks. So suspicious, yes. Interesting, yes. Why are we saying that these people were successful? There's a stock index fund called the Spider, and basically it breaks up. You can buy a share. It's an electronically traded fund. It represents a vast, widely distributed range of stocks that are in most every sector of our economy, and some of the bigger names, some of the medium-sized names, and some fast growers are included on this list. So they all, interestingly enough, did better than the Spider. So what is it indicative of? You know, they have the best information, guys. They have wonderful information that allows them to be successful. Is it insider trading? Technically, I guess it's not, but is it like, are they timing their trades to coincide with information that they have? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw those two senators from Georgia. They haven't been charged with anything, but that lost their elections because they were massively trading stocks on information that no one else had access to. And so that to me is, it should be a problem. It should be unethical. I don't know what the solution is, because, like, where do we draw the line? Is it unethical to invest in stocks and trade on information that you have legally have that is not generally public information? See, that's where people go to jail for stuff like that. So this is where I get a little bit confused sometimes, and maybe you guys do too, when we see these things happen. I don't even know, like, how they get away with it. I mean, they definitely write laws that don't affect them. They allow themselves to set themselves up outside of these laws. And so I think that when it comes to stock trading, they get special information, and obviously they get special information, and obviously that allows them to craft a successful strategy. And it's anyways, $290 million worth of trades these guys did. And again, well, let's talk about some of their best trades, the biggest winners of all. Okay. And some of them are interesting, and some of them make sense, and some of them other people probably made similar kinds of money on. So again, it's like we talk about it. It's insider trading. It seems unethical, but it doesn't mean that it's illegal, even though it sure looks illegal. And certainly other people have gone to jail for making similar purchases. But number one on the list was this guy, Austin Scott. Austin had a huge score, guys, an absolutely epic score. I don't know if any of you do any stock trading, stock purchasing. Maybe you've been in on some of those deals where GME or the Robin Hood action, where they corner a stock where the shorts have decided that the stock's going nowhere, and then they bust the shorts, and that's kind of stock manipulation. But these guys stepped right up and started making laws to prevent you guys, little guys like us, from making big money like that. Anyway, Austin Scott got involved in on October 30th, 2020. He bought what's called fuel cell technology. And so obviously what fuel cells are basically a forward-looking technological advancement as far as delivering energy, and basically like a battery, even though it's more than a battery, because fuel cells kind of generate electricity. So fuel cell technologies solution is an alternative to traditional combustion-based power generation, and it's complementary to an energy mix consisting of intermittent sources of energy such as solar and wind turbines. It provides solutions for various applications, including utility-scale distributed generation, on-site power generation, combined heat and power, distributed hydrogen, carbon capture, and hydrogen-based long-duration storage. In other words, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. It was in the running for some big, huge government contracts. And so basically, let's talk about this guy bought in at $2 a share on October 30th, 2020, and coincidentally sold for a big return on December 23rd, 2020. But then held on for about 3 more weeks for a big return. So he buys in at 2, sells at $17.60 a share for a 780% return on January 14th, 2021. He also sold on December 23rd, 2020 at $13.42 a share for a 571% return. This fuel cell technology thing is now trading around $5 a share. I'm sure it was in the running for some major government contracts that did not materialize. Okay, so that's how that game is played, guys. That's all you need to do to make money. Get elected to Congress. You'll get insider information. You'll be able to play stocks. You'll be able to play on run-ups of stocks. We'll do a little bit more of this in the next segment, but we are probably heading into our first break. Once again, guys, it's Tim O'Connor. This is a free solution. Remember, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's courage to continue that counts, guys. And when we face odds like this, and when we face situations like this, let's just take a moment to realize that we need to take a look at a third way in politics. We need to take a look at a new way. We need to elect people that will represent us. And guys, I'll be right back after this break. All right, bonus content for you guys on the internet. I hope you enjoy what I'm doing. This part is like, I don't know, it's kind of dry and boring, and it's something that we kind of all already know, right? Like that these guys are, at least on some level, corrupt. They're willing to trade on information that you and I don't have. There's a couple other interesting plays. Maybe we'll get halfway through the next segment with it. Maybe we'll get all the way through the next segment with it. I'm not sure. But hang in there. We'll talk some more about some stuff that's going on in your state that I'm finding pretty interesting. And as always, I'll find something to complain about. So thank you guys all for joining me. I'll be back in just a moment. Before the break, guys, it's me once again, Tim O'Connor. But before the break, we were talking about we were just celebrating some successes of our elected officials in the dog eat dog world of the stock market. So interestingly enough, where there's plenty of more information, we're before the break talking about Austin Scott's incredibly successful strategy of buying into fuel cell technology and selling it at an all-time high of $17.60. So not to be outdone by too much. This one, though, I think I've got a lot of friends that are playing with this one. This guy, Brian Mast, buys into what's called Tilray Brands Incorporated. And Tilray Brands is basically a long time provider of, or been in this business for a long time, in a marijuana legalization area. Okay. So Tilray Brands deals exclusively, or at least heavily, in legalization of marijuana. And our man Brian had two successful trades. Both buy dates were November 6th, 2020. And he bought Tilray Brands at $9.63. So this one was, like I said, I have a number of friends that this one was also obvious to. So this one is not we can talk about option trading and stuff like that before the end of this segment. But Brian Mast buys into Tilray Brands weed legalization, buys in $9.63, manages to sell out one sale February 9th, 2021 of $42.35 for a 340% return. And then he also managed to sell out on February 10th, 2021 for $63.91 per share after buying it for $9.63 a share for a 564% return. Now that's really incredible. But guys, on the scale of corruption, I don't know. I've got friends that are making money in the weed legalization arena. Matter of fact, my daughter is a lawyer, has done some work in it's big news. It's going on. So there still was some anticipated revenue legalization that went on that didn't quite go through, because now Tilray Brands is trading back down around $8 a share. So this guy managed to buy it at $9 a share, sell it at 60 or $70 a share, and now it's back down to $7 a share. So whatever. Interestingly, the anticipation did not meet up with the reality for Tilray Brands. I feel really, really bad for them. So interestingly enough, there's one this one looks a little bit, I want to say a little like, okay, this guy Thomas Suzy had inside information, but it could have just been a sharp play, right? He bought into United Rentals, and now I'm involved in somewhat larger construction projects, and United Rentals is a premier renter of equipment to large industrial applications. Okay, and when we've got a big, huge infrastructure bill on the table coming up, if Biden wins, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. When we get into those kind of things, this one is, I mean, it's not completely, again, unrealistic, I guess, but he manages to buy in March 20th, 2000. And even he, think about it. Even Trump was a big infrastructure guy. So I think that his timing is managing to buy it at $70.10 a share on March 20th, 2020, and then cashing out at on May 5th, 2021 and June 4th of 2021 for around $332 a share. And guys, that is still trading right around that same price, $332 a share. It just is they're taking advantage there of, I don't even want to call that one insider trading, right? That's just the government is about to throw billions and billions and trillions, almost trillions of dollars into the infrastructure projects. Okay. That one is not that weird of a play. It doesn't strike me as particularly corrupt. But it's still, man, if you guys can make that if we can make that kind of money on our stock trades, we'd be all set. So that's one of the things that, congratulations going out to, what was his name again? Let me get that guy's name. Thomas Souza, United Rentals, a 375% return in just over a year, which, guys, that honestly makes, Austin Scott makes it look like chump change with his $2 investment, his 780% return in just 3 months, guys, a little bit less than 3 months. So that's interesting. And like I said, that fuel cell technology stuff it tanked afterwards. All right. So as always, guys, we get into this Intelli Therapeutics. This is the next stock and the next big trade up for discussion. This Don Buyer managed to buy into this Intelli Therapeutics stock market symbol NTLA. It's a healthcare, health technology kind of thing. Gene editing, mRNA is big in the news. This guy makes a play. He bought in at $34.23 on November 18th, 2020. And so, and again, this one's just over a year, just under a year. He managed to sell at an all-time high, $148.36 for a 333% return. And on a separate sale on October 29th, 2021, $132.98 for a 288% return. So these are speculative health technologies. Certainly, again, we would be wanting to know if there were government contracts at issue. And so this article doesn't cover necessarily all of that, but let's see. Brian Mass Tilray purchase and subsequent sale at its all-time high in early 2021. It's sketchy because he voted in favor of the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act in late 2020. So he bought it before he voted for this, though that had a pretty good chance of passing anyway. Lockheed Martin won a $10.9 billion contract to modernize the Air Force. These are we're going to go through a couple of the sketchier trades, even though they're not necessarily the big winners. House Republican Kevin Hern, who sits on the House Committee Budget, bought Lockheed Martin stocks back in August. He bought another round just 2 weeks before Lockheed Martin won a $10.9 billion contract. And he just coincidentally, guys, sits on the House Committee on the Budget. Just coincidentally. House Democrat Kathy Manning, who sits on the House Committee, Foreign Affairs, bought up to $30,000 of stock in Lockheed Martin on October 22nd, just 2 weeks before voting for it. House Democrat Zoe Lofgren bought 15K in LCID. LCID is an electric vehicle company. It's now up 71%. Co-sponsored, Lofgren has co-sponsored legislative proposals for electronic vehicle tax credits. Guys, there's nothing to see here, right? This is not corrupt. I don't know. Yeah, all right, okay. Let's see. So there were some other ones. Congratulations to Nancy Pelosi for being an amazing options trader. I don't know if you guys followed any of that, but she can trade options. But again, this isn't really limited to Democrats. This isn't really limited to Republicans. They all have their hands in this stock market cookie jar. They all seem to be able to do incredibly well. They do better than the market. They do better than the spiders. And should we put limits on it? Should we make it illegal? Right? Again, $290 million. That's a record of stocks sold, traded. So there's the Representative Susan Delbene's family selling off $25 million in Microsoft in both September and October. And again, just $25 million. They just know. They also, it was bought in August, and then they sold it in October. I mean, I don't know, guys. That something about that doesn't seem right. These guys have an amazing, interesting track record trading stocks. And guys, so we're coming up on another break. I'm going to switch subjects after this. We have some interesting legislation coming up on the floor of the New York State Assembly. And once again, it's Tim O'Connor. This is WYSL. We were just celebrating some amazing stock prognostication by your elected representatives in 2021. I know it's kind of dry, it's kind of boring. I'm not sure if I covered the topic right, but these guys, I think we've got to talk about these things. And I should refer you to Unusual Whales, unusualwhales.com. You can read this information yourself. I'll be right back. All right, bonus content. I don't know, guys, was that too boring? Be honest. Be honest in the comments. Maybe it was too boring. I don't know. It's such an egregious thing, and but yet we're so like desensitized to it. Like this is just what they do. This is just what these people do. And if you were there, would you do the same thing? That's a question. If you were in the Congress or the Senate, would you guys trade on information that you knew would benefit your portfolio, that you had in your hand, that you knew, if you knew Lockheed Martin was going to get a $10.9 billion contract, if you knew that Alcoa was going to get a $100 billion contract, if you knew that fuel cell technology had some money that was going to go to that sector, didn't go to that sector, or didn't go to companies their size, would you trade on that information? If you're in and I know the answer is probably no. Anyways, let me put a pause in. Hey, welcome back. It is me, Tim O'Connor, your Thursday host for A Free Solution. Guys, don't forget to join me and Kevin Wilson. we've been pre-recording our shows on the internet for our fun times on Friday. So if you're available to join us and make comments, if we don't manage to be able to do it live, because guys, it's as much as I'm enjoying this, and I am truly enjoying this, there is an obligation to get out there, make a living, and that's an unfortunate reality of this. So Kevin and I have been doing some shows. We do Fake News Friday still. We have some great conversations. Guys, I don't know, doing it. Kevin and I seem to have a pretty good growing vibe for each other. I like picking on him because he gives those politicians the benefit of the doubt that I just simply, maybe it's because I'm jaded, maybe because I've been around longer. I'm just like, I'm such a skeptic. I'm so entirely skeptical of our elected leadership. The entire last two segments about how much money these guys make, and in extracurricular stock trading. Again, you guys should check out that article at unusualwhales.com for yourself, because I can't even do it justice. It's a complicated issue. There were lots and lots of trades, but guys, there is, and I'm trying to find it. My local assemblyman, and you guys have heard me talk about him. I like the guy. Okay, I do. He's a little bit too conservative for me, but also he is not. I can't say too conservative, because I fully admit I got to the Libertarian Party from being a conservative. I don't like the fact that the Conservative Party in New York State seems to be just a hey, Republican guy, help us get some votes on the conservative line. That'd be great. And then the Republican guy is not anything like a conservative. And I know that there's a one party rule, and I know that okay, guys, I get it. All right, that the Democrats are in charge in New York State. I get it. I don't argue with that. Okay, I agree with it. But my local assemblyman, all right, came up with a bill to help third parties. Say what? No, he absolutely did. My assemblyman, John Salka, came up with a bill, 8683, the New York Assembly bill. He's the sole sponsor right now, but he says I reached out to him to thank him. And he said they're working on getting some Senate sponsorship for this. It basically decreases the number of signatures and votes to 15,000 signatures for statewide candidates, and only, guys, 50,000 votes to maintain party ballot status. Changes to the petition. It changes the petition period to 12 weeks, and the petitioning time from June to August, which I think puts it after the regular normal petitioning time, which is going to be a big advantage for statewide candidates. It's going to be a big advantage for third parties if this gets through. I do want to point out once again, and I've pointed it out several times, guys, but the reality is that the way that they changed the rules about third-party ballot access was an atrocity, okay? And then they granted themselves $100 million worth of election funding, okay? Like, public financing for elections is a problem, all right? It basically creates this dystopian desire to basically, it goes from serving your constituents and having to collect money from them, okay, to get reelected and to pay for your advertising. You no longer have to answer to your constituents. The only person you have to answer to is the state and the popularity of the state. So the $100 million from the taxpayers to the candidates from the state, decided by the state, decides who gets that money, because that is, I get that there's money in politics. I know that there's a problem with that, but this as an answer does not seem to me to be the right answer, to take taxpayer money and fund campaigns with it. Now, do I have to admit that, like, a lot of the funding of campaigns comes from distinctly large businesses, comes from distinct businesses that are interested in purchasing favorable legislation? Yeah, That's also true. So I don't know what the answer is there, guys, and you can help me out with that one because that one's a little bit tricky. I know one of the answers is like if if because libertarians don't get that kind of funding ever. Green Party candidates don't get that kind of funding ever. Okay. Even your Democrat Socialist Party or Conservative Party, they're not going to have access to this money the way that the two party system that they're going to have access to this money. It's just not going to work out that way. So, guys, if you have an in with your local assemblyman and maybe your assemblyman happens to be a Democrat, all right, why don't you talk to him about Assembly Bill A8683 and tell him that you think that would be a good opportunity to broaden the voices in the political discourse realm. All right. That it would be important to have more voices accessing ballots. And guys, how are we going to raise money and how are we going to get our views known if we can't even get on the ballots? And I know everybody says, oh, libertarians should just run for local offices and make the changes there. And I'm telling you, that can't be the only solution because it's not even a real solution. All right. No offense, but if we're not doing something statewide where people are seeing us exist as a party, then why even bother? Like, sure, our ideas will be successful at the local school board level. I get it. So yes, run for your local school board. Okay. The people that should run for a local school board are people that have kids in there that want financial accountability, that want kids treated well, that realize that your superintendent is supposed to answer to your community and fight that battle there. Now, is that a libertarian thing? Is that a Republican thing? Is that a Democrat thing? I think that that's a community thing. And so, yes, libertarians would do great in places where their financial responsibility and dedication to human rights and freedoms, including kids in school, could pay off, right? Like, that's a great idea. Sure. But without statewide candidates like Larry Sharpe and Thomas Daniel Queter, I'm wondering, like, we need them. All right, we need them. We even needed guys like me to run. We had an opportunity. I made some noise. My assemblyman heard me anyway. He doesn't dislike me, which is great, right? If he didn't like me, he would. He knows who I am. I know who he is. He's a good guy. He's a good human being. And I said something like he's too conservative. I don't know what that means. That's not a fair way to say it. I think I just believe in freedom more than he does. All right. And so maybe he also believes in freedom, though, because here he is sponsoring this bill that I think is great, that expands third party access and ability to get on the ballots. All right. It still is going to take a massive effort to get 15,000 signatures for a statewide office or 50,000 signatures for the governor's race. Okay. It's still going to take a massive amount of money to get those things done. It's going to take a massive amount of effort, even with this bill lightening up the requirements just a little bit. Fine. Okay. It's still going to take a massive amount of effort. It's still going to take a respectable amount of effort. It's still going to take a lot of work to get Larry Sharpe on the ballot, to get Thomas Daniel Queter on the ballot. Okay. It's going to take time. It's going to take money. It's going to take volunteering. And I think that those things are important. And I hope that a few more people, and maybe some with some real money, decide to step up and run for some of these other offices, the Senate, the Assembly, things like that. And guys, that John Salka he made sure that the libertarian that was running against him got on the debate stage. He's a good guy. He believes in democracy. He believes in freedom. The little local Democratic Party trashes his Facebook posts and goes on and whines and snipes at him. And he's just the kind of guy that he still offers them representation. He still offers all of us representation. He's a good man. He gives a crap. He stands against mandates. All of the things that I want in an elected representative. So, well, big thank you going out to him. We're coming up on another break. It's Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant, on WYSL and WACK. And welcome back. It's me, Tim O'Connor, your Thursday host for A Free Solution. This show is available on WYSL, WACK, on the Twitter, on the Freedom Variant pages, on the Kevin Wilson pages. Guys, Larry Sharp, Kevin Wilson, myself, we're doing our best to provide a little different take on the state of politics in New York State, on the state of the COVID government response, on the state of mandates, and on the state of, and guys, I managed to get through a whole show probably without talking about COVID, but we've got to talk about some stuff that is in fact seems to be going on with COVID, and it's an interesting time. All of a sudden, the narrative seems to be, guys, shifting slightly. There was a breaking article from Project Veritas, and I'm not going to go into that here. That's up to you to check that out, but it was an interesting read. Okay, they found some information about the basic game plan for the COVID and the avoidance of handing out therapeutics, even though they appear to work. And it was 2-3 hour podcasts, okay, where and more coming. There's more coming. People are done simply listening to CNN, simply listening to Fox. And you guys have heard me talk about this several times, all right? And look, I don't want to be talking about COVID constantly, okay? I don't want to. I want to move on. I want to move back to a saner society. And I think that there's two issues preventing that, okay? Number one, we granted our legislators and our executives in New York State, the legislators in New York State granted our executive emergency powers that they are reluctant to let go of, and they feel as though they're obligated, right, to give them the benefit of the doubt. They are obligated in their minds to provide us with this level of safety that I think is impossible to provide. Okay, there is a reality about COVID, as many of you seen. The narrative is shifting. I do remember when we first in late 2020, there was this discussion about COVID hospitalizations and COVID deaths were in large part recognized not so much as a issue with COVID as it was an issue with COVID morbidities, okay? Obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, COPD, that COVID really attacks certain vulnerable people. And then that narrative went away for a while, all right? And now that narrative's back, and it's back at the highest levels. It's coming out from the CDC, it's coming out from Fauci, that these hospitalizations, some of these hospitalizations that they are talking about, that there are a lot of hospitalizations, that they are from comorbidities and not necessarily from COVID. And gosh, there's been stories coming out breaking like crazy about people that do the research, that code these things, that are saying, yes, if someone gets shot in the arm or shot in the leg and they die and they have COVID, that is listed as a COVID death. And you guys got to check your own receipts on this, okay? Because I can say it, you can believe it, but you've got to read the articles, because it's important for us to follow along with this real information, all right? So the changing narrative on the masks, even the CDC directors coming out with saying, yes, cloth masks don't work. But in New York State, we have a mask mandate. Now, does that mean that they're going to mandate like N95 masks for everybody all the time? That seems to be the direction that we're going to head in. But let's get our fingers crossed. The number one thing that affects COVID, in my opinion, is the weather. Okay, guys, it's with us now. That's it. It goes into our animal populations. It's going to come back out. It goes through it. It finds a way around vaccines. And guys, I've talked about this before. Anybody that's saying that this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, does not understand science. Now, is it real science to say it appears that the vaccine mitigates severe cases of COVID? That's science, okay? But saying it like that, it appears that COVID mitigates serious effects, or the vaccine mitigates serious effects. Now, to call this a pandemic of the unvaccinated when this virus mutates quick enough to escape, all right, that's the term the scientists are using, escape the vaccine, that is not a pandemic of the unvaccinated, all right? And that's that narrative may or may not go away. We have gotten into a point in society where we deal with these things emotionally, disrespectfully, and we've pitted each other against each other. And I do think that this is this degeneration, and I'm going to talk about it probably every single show. Okay, I'm going to bring it up. We're going to talk about it. At least I didn't belabor you guys with this the whole show today. But this dystopian nonsense where we are basically calling people names on social media when we don't understand science. I would like that to stop. I'd like that to be better. And more articles are breaking about, this isn't a pandemic of the unvaccinated. If a virus escapes a vaccine, that is still just a pandemic. Okay. We can't be blaming people that way. We can't. The Omicron variant seems to be much lighter, much more contagious, but much less dangerous. And we need to also, guys, as you know, and I've talked about this a lot, right? Like, we need to let kids get back to living their lives without fear, without blame, and without this ridiculous amount of testing. And so now they're taking steps in that direction for kids. But it's I don't want to say it's too little, it's too late, but it's a little bit too late, and it's a lot too little. It needs to happen faster. Okay. When you go to a sports game, any sports game, and guys, I've mentioned it before, my kid's a wrestler, and they put them in masks. Like, guys, there is no way. That is the science of compliance, guys. Okay. That is mass formation hysteria. There is nothing to that is preventing the spread of COVID. Now, do they have an obligation there to try to mitigate the spread of COVID? I don't even know. Okay. Because with young, healthy people, should they find a way to make sure that they're not exposed to people that are not as healthy as them? All right. Maybe. Okay. But what are the real risks? We need to take a look at the real risks for our youth from COVID. And we need to take a real look at the real comorbidities for people that are having problems with COVID. And that's what the government messaging should be focused on, not this dystopian nonsense that comes out of the White House, where we have so degenerated the way that we talk to each other that we threaten the unvaccinated with this a winter of death and like misery. What in the world is going on, guys? Like that, we have to be better than that. And so I want to point out that like, CNN saw that Joe Rogan got 50 million views with Dr. McCullough, all right, and Dr. Malone, all right, and that they played a game with ivermectin, and they lost this game. They lost the ratings game. They are now moderating their conversation about COVID because they realize there's more money in behaving better. Now, will it change overnight? No. Okay. Will they still keep fighting this for this emotional psyche of people that they've made paranoid, that they've stimulated their Munchausen's? Will they still be fighting down that road? Will they still be stepping outside of the box to call them names and stuff like that, and to get them excited about Trump fans and January 6th and things like that? Yeah, they're still gonna. That's made them some money, right? Are they gonna basically campaign for Trump to win, even though they're gonna pretend to hate him the whole time? Yeah. Do they want him to run again? Yeah. Why? Because they made a lot of money off of him, guys. That's a reality. Okay, but are they softening their conversation about COVID? And I'm thinking that they did. All right. I'm feeling like they did. I've seen some comments and some quotes, and I don't have them handy, but I did read them. And sometimes when I just shoot from my memory, I mess up the quotes, so I don't want to mess with them today. But I think that we can check out the narrative and how it's changing, and how Dr. Fauci is saying, yes, there's a lot of kids in the hospital that have COVID, but they're not in the hospital because of COVID. That's a big, huge change in messaging. And so, as you guys know, I was like, I'm teetering on this point where are the authoritarians going to spike the ball and say, look, we beat COVID? And can they do that? They can, right? They can. They totally can. There's nothing that's going to stop them. But is it accurate? I don't think so. I don't think it's accurate at all. But I will welcome at this point any softening of that messaging. But my point about this is that Joe Rogan getting 50 million views. What if it was Larry Sharpe getting 5 million votes? What if it was Larry Sharpe getting 1 million votes? Would that, and what if it was Thomas Daniel Queter winning a New York State Senate seat? Or what if it was, say, Rich Pertel decides to run? And you guys have heard him on here. He's one of the sanest people that I know. What if those guys get a huge amount of votes? Is that going to have to change the discourse in New York State? That's the instantaneous response to the 50 million views of the Joe Rogan podcast is the 90 million total views. They'd prefer Trump than somebody saying like Larry and somebody saying like Tom, okay, because they can trade on that. But that's the thing. Those are the things that libertarians want to offer you. And those are the things that this libertarian goal, this concept is about. It's this less government, this smaller government. Guys, we're coming up on the end of the show. I hope that you join Kevin and I tomorrow for Fake News Friday. Kevin and I having some fun, talking some nonsense. I'll try to figure out something to troll them about. Guys, it's Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant, your Thursday host. Thank you, WYSL. Thank you, WACK. Well, I'll catch you tomorrow.